Hi, my name is Sanya Shah, and I'm currently a junior that lives in San Francisco, California. My mentor name was Emily, and together we researched climate change, specifically the intersection between natural disasters and women's injustice. And why I chose this topic is that I've always been passionate about the environment and finding connections within the real world. I also went on a 2-week volunteering trip in Peru where I got to experience the impact of natural disasters on marginalized communities in person, which I found very powerful and very moving. Why is this important? As you know, climate change is a growing global concern that affects millions of people worldwide and causes various problems. In this graph, you can see that in 2020 and 2022, 2021, that there has been a dramatic increase of natural disasters in the United States. And these disasters cause so many problems, such as damage of infrastructure, loss of livelihoods, separation of family, and lots of other problems. However, compared to any other community, women of color face the most detrimental effects after a natural disaster. For example, in natural disasters in Bangladesh and the Indian Ocean, women faced higher post-mortality rates compared to any other community. And in Honduras and Nicaragua, they were 55% more likely to contract infectious diseases. There's a lot of concerns that women face after natural disasters, but I'll be going over the three major topics. The first one being climate-induced displacement. This refers to people that are forced out of their homes after the impacts of climate change, and they're also referred to as climate refugees. A huge problem that women face is limited access to essential resources. So basic necessities such as clean water, food, a roof, healthcare, they're not given access to these, which can be detrimental to their overall well-being. They also face disruptions in social support systems, which can lead to unwanted and poorly spaced pregnancies. And if you put yourself in their shoes, they have to rebuild their entire livelihood. And if they're already below the poverty line and have been historically marginalized, it's very, very difficult to do that. They also face external pressures from their male counterparts to increase population and to have more babies when they're displaced. And they have restricted access to contraception as well. And one statistic is that in 2020, 1.7 million people in the United States were displaced by disasters, and 64% of them were women and children of color. Very powerful to know. Some examples is that in 2005, in Hurricane Katrina on the East Coast, the most impacted community was African American households. And post-disaster, they faced an economic disparity. So, for example, for every $19,000 that an African American household received as compensation for damages, their white household counterparts would receive $100,000. Afterwards, they were forced to displacement shelters, which were unsanitary and would be prone to a lot of diseases and illnesses. Another example is coastal flooding in 2022 and 2023 in California, where Native American tribes were forced into congested camps after the rise of sea levels, and this caused dismantled social and historical systems and a huge effect on their overall livelihood. Another great challenge is reproductive health issues. And compared to other services in hospitals, reproductive health services are often not prioritized. So when a natural disaster strikes, they're given less funding, less educated doctors, and less facilities to perform the correct and adequate services to women. And this can affect the care and treatment of women, which leads to a lot of pregnancy-related issues and a lot more. Additionally, lack of essential resources. So after natural disaster, women are not given clean water, clean food, and this can result in a lot of issues such as poor menstrual hygiene, birth defects, and more, as well as increased illnesses and diseases. Lastly, pregnant women have a lot of issues after natural disasters, as deficiencies in macro and micronutrients can contribute to adverse maternal health outcomes, such as low birth weight, defects, miscarriages, and prenatal deaths. And pregnant women in temporary houses, so that are displaced from shelters, are more susceptible to psychological and physical strains after natural disasters, and this could affect their delivery process and their newborn. Lastly, mental and physical violence. And so a huge problem women face after these catastrophes is sexual exploitation. One example is that when a natural disaster strikes, they are forced to undertake longer journeys to access essential resources, which amplifies their vulnerability to sexual exploitation, physical abuse, and harm. And research focusing on these displaced communities has revealed that in the year following Hurricane Katrina, the violence against women of color tripled. Additionally, they are more dependent on their male counterparts, and because they're historically given less access to higher education, this can be very detrimental. They are also, as seen from other examples, they are more prone to post-mortality rates after natural disasters. And another example is that the World Health Organization found that women are the largest group of people affected by PTSD and or trauma after disasters. How can these issues be combated? And so there's a lot of ways that women can be given a voice and a say in the community, such as given more power in political roles. And within conservation and preservation societies right now, board positions are held predominantly by white males, with approximately 95% of them identifying as white males. And the lack of representation in environmental NGO boards and environmental organizations are very detrimental because these boards are supposed to represent the entire population, and they are not representing the women in marginalized women. And so women in these has to have these roles to hear voices and ideas. A recent study in the McKinsey Global Institute indicated the potential for a substantial boost in yearly global GDP if women's market participation were up to par with men's. Another important thing to know is that women-led organizations are very effective, as their participation in community-based conservation led to a 25% reduction in deforestation rates in certain US regions. Women also play a huge role in social media and can utilize this to advocate and to empower themselves. For example, hashtag NADPL, which stands for the No Dakota Access Pipeline, was very impactful when Indigenous tribes, specifically women of the Show Rock tribe in California, used social media to spread awareness about hazardous and potentially dangerous construction in their community. And I think that there's so many ways that women can contribute to this environment, and I think it's important to note that together we can make a change in this world. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me at sanyashah@gmail.com.